Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Today we're making Kartoffelsalat, aka potato salad. This is the southern German version, so it does not contain any mayo. It's the ideal side to bring to a garden party or a barbecue because it can do without refrigeration for a while. Okay, let's hop right in. What you need is boiled and peeled waxy potatoes. Use twice as many as you think you need because this is delicious and it will vanish in no time. These potatoes are boiled with the skin on, then you let them cool a little till you can handle them, and then you peel them. This is an important step because if you peel them before you boil them, there is too much water in those potatoes and you don't want that in your salad. Alright, next ingredient. I have a very small onion here, but this is not too many potatoes. I would say for a 10-inch bowl of potatoes like this, use like half onion. Regular yellow onion is fine, white onion is fine. I would not recommend a red onion because red onion would just discolor the thing, but other than that they're fine to use. Then we need a cucumber. Regular cucumber, this is an English cucumber, doesn't matter. The alternative is to use pickles. So you can simply use pickles and slice those. We need something crunchy in here. For the preparations, I've already boiled and peeled these potatoes. What we have to do is cut them in slices. They will fall apart to a certain degree, but if you cook them just right, they might just keep most of their shape. Okay, let me quickly cut these guys up. And I'll see you in a few seconds. Alright, so much for this kind of prep work. Next step, put these aside and peel that cucumber. I'm gonna use like half of it, let's say. You know, if you have a peeler, this goes real quick. There we go. I said we're gonna use like half of this onion. So let's quickly take care of that. You can just cut a little coarser or a little more fine. I like them a little bit more fine so you don't have a mouthful of onions every time you take a fork. That's the core. There we go. So what we're gonna do with these onions, we don't want them raw. We want them to have a little brown, flavor. So here we are over at the stove. There's our onions. See that amount? That's probably 2-3 tablespoons of a neutral oil. This is canola oil, because this is the amount of oil you're going to put into the salad afterwards. And from here on, see, there's no sizzle yet. We're just going to heat them up slowly and let them caramelize for a little bit. Pinch of salt. Pinch of salt extracts moisture out of the onions, and that's what we want. While all this is happening on the stove behind me, I'm going to use a mandolin. You can use the slicing side of a box grater or simply cut the cucumber by hand. If you have a regular standard cucumber like you get them in any store in the US, you'd have to half it or quarter it and take the seeds out anyways. So then you could also use a knife and just cut them. I want them fairly thin, so I'm using this mandolin. See? There we go. Don't go too far here. You know what? I'm just going to use the other half of the cucumber too. Alright, this thing goes into the dishwasher, and there we have it. That's all the cutting, slicing and dicing there is to do. It took us 5 minutes, not even. Let me quickly check. Things are getting too hot here, we need to calm down. So now I'm going to medium-low heat. I don't really want to have roast onions, I want to have caramelized onions. All we have in here right now is the boiled potatoes and the cut cucumbers. Seasoning. Number 1, use a vinegar that's not too self-absorbed, I would almost say. So don't use a balsamico. but I'm using a red wine vinegar. You could use a white wine vinegar. You can even use the cheap distilled vinegar. All fine. Rice vinegar, fine. So you just don't want to go overboard. It shouldn't be too acidic. There we go. That should do for now. You can always add. So later on, once it comes together, the potatoes will absorb things, so you might have to add a little more acidity, but just sample it. Okay, and here comes the interesting part. This, in my beloved Aladdin cup, this is a regular broth. I'm using a broth cube, bouillon cube, and I double the concentration. So normally a bouillon cube is for a pint. This is a cup, and I'm using the entire cube on it. You want this a pretty concentrated broth or a very flavorful broth. If you're on the low salt side, of course, go lower in concentration, then you don't want all that salt. All right, we're using about a quarter cup here for starters. Again, you can always use more later. Mix it up a little. And maybe break up clusters of potatoes sticking together. I always do that. Oh, we have one we didn't cut. That happens. Well, there we go. Okay. Now, a good grind of pepper. Always peek over your shoulder and check the onions. You don't want them black. That's not good eating. Let's sample. Oh yeah. Can use more broth. Let's use it all. Can use another touch of vinegar. And for my taste, a pinch of salt. The oil and the onions I have behind me here on the stove is the last thing to go in. You want the potatoes to suck up all that vinegar and broth before we seal them essentially with the oil. Also, it's a good thing when at this point the potatoes are still a little bit warm, because then they simply are greedier for all the liquid they can get. Right, let's try this once more. Nice. Okay, you see me double dipping here, but it's for me, it's not gonna end up on someone else's plate, so I can double dip. See, there we go. That's about what we want. So we're all done here. See you over on the other side. And there this goes in. Now we just give this a swirl and see, it's getting a shine. It's like a glossy paint. The consistency is just right. When my mother taught me this recipe, she explained to me, Kartoffelsalat has to be schlotzig. So the word will not mean much to you, but just hear the sound of it and then you know what this consistency should be like. Schlotzig. Which in southern German dialect is, well, about this consistency. I don't even know if there's even remotely a translation for it. All right, this should be it. Let's see. Another pinch of salt. And then let this rest for like half an hour or so that all the flavors can mingle. This can go into the fridge for a few days. Since there's no mayo in it, it's by far not as susceptible to any kind of foodborne illness, because it's essentially a vinaigrette that's in it. All right, and if you want to know what I made this potato salad for, just stay tuned, because there's another episode coming on doing something called Strammer Max.